And I'm Rudolph here with his book, Meadowvale, reading an excerpt from Chapter 9, starting on page 62. Jaratka hissed. How's my project coming along? His eyes quickly took in the situation. Eh? What's this? Where's that long-whiskered beast? Allison and Wearable both stared at him, eyes wide, devoid of words. Jaratka bellowed, Where is the brown rabbit, the healer? Sir, Jaratka's furious eyes narrowed on Allison. Sir, the lizard who left this boy here asked the same thing. I didn't know, so he gave me the scale and left. The boy is doing much better, she said as she extended the signet scale to Jaratka. The lizard took the signet scale very slowly, very delicately, and examined it up close with his right eye. He said, Well, you are telling the truth, but this is not at all what I requested. He slid the signet scale into his belt, scrutinized the two rabbits for a moment, and screamed, Guard! Seconds later, a lizard with a spear appeared in the infirmary. Yes, sir, Jaratka said. Retrieve Korba for me. Yes, sir. The other lizard left immediately. Jaratka sighed as he paced the room. I hate when my orders aren't followed. But, sir, Allison began. Do not speak until commanded, he shrieked. He spent the next few minutes motionless, staring at Allison with an expression that she couldn't interpret. It made her stomach squirm. Finally, Korba arrived. What were my instructions? Jaratka said without turning his gaze away from Allison. Korba paused for a long time, trying to choose his words carefully. Sir, you instructed me to make sure he was taken care of to the utmost. Correct. Does handing him off to some unknown healer qualify as utmost? Jaratka said, almost whispering. Korba's eyes were very wide. Sir, he stuttered, I was assured that she was an excellent healer. By whom? Jaratka asked in an actual whisper. It was that pale beast. I didn't think the stupid thing would deceive me. Jaratka finally turned to the soldier. He shook his finger with a tinge of playfulness in his voice. Perhaps that was your folly. You didn't think. But, sir, Korba began. Jaratka shrieked as he leapt across the few feet that separated them. When he landed, his hands were wielding two daggers, one in each side of Korba's throat. He held the pose for a few seconds, then retracted the daggers to let the body fall to the ground. He calmly cleaned his daggers with the rag Allison had used to wash Wearable. After inspecting both blades, he sheathed them. Any other questions? He said to the room. He didn't pause. Good, thank you very much. Pointing at Wearable, Jaratka said, I shall see you in an hour. Don't be late. Then he strolled out of the infirmary, whistling a light tune. Allison stared at the limp body of the lizard and began to cry. He may have been a vile creature, but nobody deserves to die like that. She knelt down to touch Korba's blank face. His eyes were still open despite the absence of life in them. She shut his eyelids and said, May you find peace. Allison, Wearable said. She looked at him, and he nodded behind her to the rest of the room. Only just then did she notice that all of the other patients had sat up or propped themselves on elbows, and all their eyes were fixated on her. How long have you all been awake? No one responded. Will they come back for the body? Still no response. Can anyone tell me what I'm supposed to do with this poor creature? Her voice was angry now. After more silence from the onlookers, Allison said, Fine! I'll find someone who can. She knew it wouldn't work, but she tried to lift Korba herself. After managing only to strain herself and feel like a fool, she resigned to dragging Korba by his hands. Where are you going? Wearable asked with panic in his voice. I'm going to find someone who gives a dung about this poor animal. But they'll kill you. Then they can deal with my dead carcass as well, she said from the hallway. But, Rubble stammered as he fell off the cot. He got to his feet and limped after Allison. "You get your belligerent bottom back in there!" "But nay! Get off to the vile demon who killed this man. You be the best cursed soldier ever." With that, Allison heaved the body back down the way she had been led, leaving Wearable panic-stricken in the doorway. "Bloody demons, killing anything they want," Allison muttered to herself down the tunnel, hoping there might be one glimmer of hope in these dark lands. "You!" she said. The gray lizard looked up from his book so suddenly that he knocked his glasses off. As he put them back on, his face went from anger to confusion. "Me?" he said, pointing a finger to himself. "Yes, you! One of your friends killed this man and left him to rot without so much as a backward glance." "First of all," the gray lizard said indignantly, "I don't have any friends here. Secondly, these gentlemen," sarcasm was thick in his voice as he spoke the word gentleman, "kill whomever they please. Thirdly, you are just as likely to be killed, so why don't you scurry yourself back to wherever you belong?" "No, sir, I will not scurry myself back. I will show some decency in this God-forsaken pit. You help me with this poor creature, or you'll have two bodies to deal with." Allison's voice echoed heavily down the corridors. The gray lizard stood up. "Be quiet, girl. Fine. I'll help you so long as you keep your infernal racket down." He paused to look at her as if he were scrutinizing an unknown creature. "What's your name, girl?" Allison straightened herself up and responded boldly, though no longer yelling. "I am Allison Highfallow of Meadowvale. What might your name be, boy?" The lizard scoffed. "Ha! By the look of it, I am no less than thrice your age. I am Raktotraka, more a formality now than a rank." "What do you mean by formality?" "We can talk politics another time. For now," he peeked outside the door, listening, twitching his head slightly back and forth. "For now, scurry back. I'll deal with the body." He turned back to her, and she eyed him intensely. She gave the slightest curtsy. "Thank you, sir," she said, and ran back to the infirmary. Raktotraka's face contorted as he watched her depart. "She's insane." "What are you doing?" said an angry voice behind him. Raktotraka turned around to find an unimpressive lizard. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Why'd you let that slave get away? You know she's not supposed to be wandering the tunnels." "Excuse me?" Raktotraka's voice started to fill the tunnel. "Who are you, soldier?" "I am Krinshra," he said, tilting his nose up. "I am Raktotraka. His Highness may no longer have an interest in books, but that does not change my rank. For your information, I had that slave drag this corpse down here so that you could deal with it. I hate the stench that you underlings leave lying around. Take this." Raktotraka handed his signet scale to Krinshra. "Do not spout a word of your mockery, or I will have you gut-hung." "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know, sir. I was just doing my rounds." "Get out of my sight!" Raktotraka spat. Krinshra started dragging the body opposite the way Allison had run. He looked up only once to see Raktotraka glaring at him. After Krinshra was out of sight, Raktotraka sighed and walked slowly back to his desk. After putting a bookmark in his book, "Allison Highfallow, I hope you survive."